So, Rachel, you're a very successful garden designer and you've been designing gardens all over the world for the last 20 years or so. What's made you give away all your trade secrets and start to teach garden design online?
Well, one of the main reasons I decided to give away all my secrets and teach garden design was because the number of gardens that I see on a daily basis as a professional garden designer, where people have spent a small fortune and spent a lot of time, energy, and effort landscaping their garden, and they just haven't got good results. And if people focus more on design first, rather than dashing off down the garden centre to get the latest feature or plant that's available, they would get so much better results. And the thing is, in order to have a great looking garden, you don't need to spend a fortune. Just getting the design shapes right first makes a tremendous difference. And that can come down to something that's as simple as just reshaping your lawn. So, you can save yourself a small fortune and create a much better garden if you concentrate your efforts on design first, and then once you've got the design right, then go off and buy the right plants and features. So that's really what inspired me to, help people stop wasting their money on things that don't make a difference and show them just how easy design can be.
So, are these the people who probably wouldn't think to employ a garden designer, that would just need a little bit of help with their garden? In other words, does it interfere with your other work, your bespoke gardens?
Well, there's always people that would prefer to have a professional garden designer come in and design their garden. And then there's always people that would rather have a go and do it themselves. And, there's no reason why people can't design their own garden, as long as they understand how design works and they know a little bit about the design principles. And once they've got that under their belt, then there is absolutely no reason at all why, a non-professional can't create a great looking garden.
But, there's lots of garden design books on the market. Can't the people get all the information from those?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. There are a great deal of garden design books out there, but what I've found is most of them are either quite academic or very conceptual and theoretical. None of them really explain the how to step by steps of turning all that theory into a finished garden design at the end of it, one that is going to work with your tastes and style and your type of garden. So, that's what I've set about doing at Successful Garden Design, making design really simple, really easy, by showing people a formula that I use as a professional garden designer. And it was one I had to use or had to develop because when I first left college, although technically speaking I was a qualified garden designer, I'd got all these theories and concepts rolling around in my brain. But when it actually came to doing it for a living, I found I really struggled when I came out of college because no one had said, here's how you do it. I'd just been given all of this theory without the actual how-to steps. And really, it took probably 5 or 10 years of me studying design like crazy to try and work out the formula to use that makes designing simple. And, it did take me about 10 years to fully develop it. But now that I've put that work in, it's really easy and, anybody can learn how to do it. I think a lot of garden design books are either written by people that are either not garden designers or they're naturally gifted designers, which makes it very difficult for them to explain how they do what they do. And I've had to break the process down for myself so that I could do this for a living. And it's that formula that I came up with that did take me a long time that I now teach here at Successful Garden Design.
So, what's the difference between online courses you teach and the garden design workshops?
Right. Well, the main difference is the workshops are a demonstration of me designing a garden from start to finish. So I film myself designing live and then I edit it down to the most vital things that people would need to know. Whereas the courses go in depth. So the workshops are just the videos of me working and explaining how to design a garden. So they're much shorter, much more concise. Whereas the courses go in depth with written step-by-step instructions of exactly what you do. And the workshops are good for people that maybe just want an overview of garden design and they're maybe not sure whether they can do it themselves, or maybe not sure that the methods I teach are as simple as I say that they are. And the workshops demonstrate that, so they're a good starting point for anyone that's interested in garden design. And even if they do decide to hire somebody, their workshops will give them an overview of what makes a design good. So it'll
Mm.
help them either do it themselves or know what to look for in a garden designer.
So you offer up a variety of things with successful garden design. What are the courses?
Well, there's the main course called the Great Garden Formula, that it's kind of the mother of all garden design courses. It really covers everything from small gardens to large gardens, awkward shaped gardens, front gardens, you name it, it's in there. And what I find is a lot of people start out just wanting to do their own garden, and then they often, once they get a taste for designing, they then want to go on and do their friends' and family's garden. So the Great Garden Formula is really in depth. It covers everything you need to know design wise. And then the other courses are more specific. So there's a small garden formula that focuses in on what to do with a small garden. And you know, if you get the right materials used in the right way, you can absolutely visually double the space of a small space garden. So that's why design is so important. And you know, there's lots of tips and tricks that are really easy that people can do in their own gardens. And this is laid out along with lots of example plans of exactly, you know, if that, just because you've got a small garden, it could be an odd shape or it could be very long and narrow. So I cover all the different types of garden style and shapes and sizes in that course.
Mm.
And then there's the long garden formula for people that have got gardens that are longer than wide, and you know, how to make them look wider and all that type of thing. And there's also specific courses on planting. Now, the Great Garden Formula includes the 5 Minute Plant Expert, which shows people, rather than learning individual plant names, because there's, you know, hundreds and thousands of plants available. So when you first walk into a garden centre, it can be really difficult to know which plant's going to grow in your garden because they have such an enormous selection. Garden centres are more like plant zoos these days. There's lots of plants that, you know, won't grow in your garden but look pretty. So unless you know which plants, you can spend an absolute fortune.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so the 5 Minute Plant Expert shows you the key characteristics to look for in a plant. You know, certain plants that grow in certain conditions often have very similar types of leaves, like, you know, they might be silver or they might be furry. So if you know what characteristics to look for, you know, you don't have to learn the plant name. You can just look at a plant, look at its leaves, and you'll instantly know what conditions that plant likes. Now, not every plant will tell you, but about 60–70% of them you can tell just by looking at them where they like to grow. So that's what's in the 5 Minute Plant Expert. And then there's the plant design formula that covers the aesthetics of plant design, how to put plants together well. Most people make the mistake of either choosing plants because they like the flower or because they like the leaves, which, you know, is the most obvious thing in the world to do. But if a plant is only flowering for 20% of the time, if you've just chosen it for that flower 80% of the time, it's not looking good for the reason you chose it for. So I teach people how to put plants together in a way that looks good all year round and get that continuity of colour, of shape and form and texture that makes a planting scheme look really good, rather than just having your garden look good for, say, 2 weeks of the year when everything's in flower.
Mm. Well, it sounds as though there's something for everybody,
Yes,
garden-wise.
yes. I've tried to cover all levels. So there's the people that are really keen and want to know everything, and the Great Garden Formula is the course for them because it's the most in depth. But if they just got a small garden, for example, or they just want to, you know, redo their patio or their deck, there's books and courses that show them exactly what to do. Just for, you know, they want the quickest, shortest route to get the garden they want, then the mini courses are better for that. But if you want to know everything, then the Great Garden Formula is the best course.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.